Well, hey everybody, it's July 1st. Welcome to summer, and that means it's the opening of the AOPA Poker Run National Flight Challenge. So most of us don't need an excuse to fly, but here's another excuse if you really need one. And what you might get out of it is a nice Bose A20 headset. As the president might say, here's the deal. What you need to do is download the AOPA app from either the Apple or Google stores. Once you've got that installed, visit an airport, check in. Every time you visit in a new airport, you get a badge and you get a random card. So if you visit 7 airports, you get 7 cards. Then the system picks the best 5 cards for your hand. Sorry, there's no skill involved in this, it's just simply luck. But at the end of September, the 4 best hands will win prizes. So go celebrate your freedom to fly and win prizes. Well, speaking of your freedom to fly, on Monday, you might want to fly out and watch some of the fireworks. It's very interesting to be able to view fireworks from the air. And joining me now is Rodney Martz from our Pilot Information Center. So Rodney, what are some of the things we should consider if we're going to go out on Monday night and fly around and look at the fireworks?
Well, hi, Warren. Thanks for having me visit today. It's certainly a fun experience for fireworks watching. Certainly you can manage your expectations and family expectations a bit because you do have some minimum altitude considerations, of course. So it's always good to take a real quick read of the FAR 91.119. It's a 1,000-foot AGL minimum, so be advised of that. But of course, keep in mind, if you're working at night, that really is a rather lower altitude at night, depending on how far you are from your nearest airport. So keep that type of thing in mind. And I've done this a few times. It is enjoyable, but keep in mind, too, the best views may be somewhat higher than that and somewhat further away, more on an oblique line where you can see the entire city lightscape and pick up the fireworks as part of that. So keep an idea of where you are in relation to the nearest suitable landing spot, and keep in mind at night, operations, city lights, you may not have the horizon you're used to. Certainly you're aware of your weather conditions. But the big thing, too, is you may not be the only traffic up there. So keep that in mind. You might circle to the left to start. I'd like to keep a Unicom frequency up. Air-to-air remembers 122.75, but not enough people will be using that. So you have to keep your head on the swivel.
And of course, you need to be night current if you've got passengers with you.
Absolutely that.
All right. Thank you, Rodney. Rodney is one of our folks down in the Pilot Information Center, and they handle all kinds of questions and calls from AOPA members, an extraordinary resource. Thanks for joining us, Rodney.
Thank you.
And also keep in mind how high fireworks can go. Now, the largest fireworks can get up to 1,200 feet, and they have about a 300-foot explosive radius, so that may mean that even about 1,500 feet would be the absolute lowest you would want to consider when observing any fireworks. Well, now moving on to our Shameless Commerce division, how about a patriotic t-shirt to celebrate your freedom to fly? You can get them from AOPA while supplies last. We have the link up there for you to get to them. Well, a group of young pilots celebrated their freedom to fly last weekend. They flew into Goodspeed Airport in Connecticut. They are members of Young Pilots USA. Now, it was founded in 2020 by Luke Zipkin. Now, he's just 17 years old, and he created this organization for pilots 13 to 25.
We really ran into a lot of young people who felt that there wasn't an accepting place for them on the recreational side of flying, and we really wanted to make sure that there were lots of sort of sub-communities within aviation. We wanted to make sure that our own were taken care of, to be perfectly blunt.
Now, they already have 25 chapters in some 17 states. Now, you might remember Luke from his Connecticut to California flight last year in a J3 Cub. He did that in part to raise awareness for several charities, including the AOPA Foundation Flight Training Scholarships. And speaking of those scholarships, nearly $1.2 million in flight training scholarships. That's how much the AOPA Foundation is investing this year to boost the next generation of aviators. And of course, it's all thanks to the generous donations to the AOPA Foundation. This year, there were more than 130 folks getting scholarships, including high school students, teachers, and people of all ages who want to learn to fly or grow their skills. Betania Gutia is one of the winners. Now, she won a $10,000 high school training scholarship funded by the Ray Foundation.
I just feel great honor that they picked me to be the recipient of the scholarship, and I just want them to know how much I appreciate and how big of a help this money is going to be towards my flight.
Betania wants to be an airline pilot. This year's scholarship winners were selected from among more than 4,000 applicants. You can read more about our scholarship winners on our website. If there were ever a time to fly GA, it's probably right now. You know, the airlines have canceled thousands of flights for this upcoming holiday, and it's a continuing problem. The airlines have canceled some 21,000 flights since Memorial Day, and there's a lot of finger pointing going on. The airlines blame FAA because of staff shortages at air traffic control. Meanwhile, the FAA says that airlines reduced staff during the pandemic, even though they got some $54 billion in tax dollars to prevent mass layoffs. And of course, the airlines are having trouble finding enough crews to fill their flights. But there's some good news in that right now. Delta and United Airlines, for example, are hiring some 200 pilots a month. And a lot of the airlines are increasing salaries and other benefits to try to get pilots back in and other crew back into the aircraft. By the way, FlightAware shows cancellations and delays. The FAA shows it by airport. Now, you can probably help out a little bit in this if you want. If you have no real need to fly IFR, go ahead and fly VFR and give those overtaxed air traffic controllers a bit of a break. Well, airlines worldwide are getting back close to the passenger numbers that they had before the pandemic, but as I just said, they don't all have the crews they need. So some are pulling their super jumbos back out of mothballs. Lufthansa, for example, is returning the Airbus A380 to service. Now, most airlines had been retiring their A380s. They were just too big and too expensive to fly. Lufthansa had retired all of the A380s in 2020, but the A380 can be profitable if it's close to fully loaded. And guess what? That's what's happening with a lot of the airlines. And of course, while the airlines are blaming ATC, that friendly voice on the radio can be a real help, and we certainly don't want to point fingers at them. Sometimes they're even a lifesaver. The National Air Traffic Controllers Association honored controllers for aviation saves earlier this month. Now, they call it the Archie League Medal of Safety Award. One of the awards went to Joe Wright of the Houston Tracon for helping a Cherokee pilot.
Houston departure November 7073 Whiskey is on a 120. We lost our gyro on the approach.
Yeah, 73 Whiskey, maintain 2000, descend 2000 and fly heading at 090. Number 73 Whiskey, showing you level at 2000, are you okay?
I don't think we're okay, 73 Whiskey.
Number 73 Whiskey, you're on the left turn, so level out. Try to level out, you're descending as well. Roll to the right and level out. Number 73 Whiskey.
73 Whiskey, we are visual now, and we're okay.
Yeah, just stay there where you can see the ground. You're pretty clear for that area. The MVA is 1,700. Just confirm your level, and you do have ground contact?
We are level, we have ground contact. We're actually, I know exactly where we are, 73 Whiskey.
Just happened to be the right guy in the right spot at the right time. I did what I've been trained to do.
And you can see more on our website. Well, Sully is out. That would be Chesley Sullenberger, and he's stepping down as the U.S. ambassador to ICAO. That's the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is a United Nations organization which sets international aviation standards, and then member countries adopt those standards as regulations. You're probably most familiar with ICAO because of the ICAO flight plan. Now, Caselli had only been in the job 6 months. He gave no reason for leaving. However, in my previous life, I had an occasion to work with some UN agencies, and I can tell you the bureaucracy can be absolutely mind-numbing. Maybe that's why. Or maybe he didn't like the commute to Montreal. Well, speaking of commuting, how about flying to the office in your own personal eVTOL? This is the inventor of the Jetson 1 flying from his home to work for the first time. He claims it reduced his commute time by 88%. Now, the Jetson 1 is an ultralight, no pilot license required. Software really does almost all of the flying. It can go 60 miles an hour and up to 1,200 feet. It's only $92,000. If you want one, they only have 5 slots left in their 2023 production line. I think I'll stick with a Cessna. And we'll be back in a moment.
My name is Terry Carbonell. I live in the Florida Keys on a private airstrip called Tavernero. What I fly is a 182 RG. Wild Mama is her name, 614 Whiskey Mike. You know, SiriusXM is just the best product out there. I fly in the mountains a lot, and ADS-B is a line of sight. You can't get ADS-B, you have big gaps in the mountains, and that's, gosh, when would you want to have good weather is in the mountains. I like to fly low. I've flown across the United States at 1,000 feet AGL because it's all about scenery. You can't always get ADS-B when you're at 1,000 feet, but I always have SiriusXM weather and radio. SiriusXM radio is on 24/7 when I'm in the plane. SiriusXM weather just keeps you out of trouble. It's certainly avoiding bad memories. It's nothing like having reliable weather service in the cockpit.
Well, welcome back. You know, it's a different vibe at the Sentimental Journey fly-in. It's a good one that's sort of more laid back and easygoing than some of the bigger fly-ins. And, you know, how could you not be in a good mood when you're surrounded by Piper Cubs? The 36th fly-in to Lockhaven, Pennsylvania was last week. The annual event is a real favorite among pilots in this area and beyond. AOPA was there, and you can see our story on the fly-in by clicking on the link there at the top of your screen. And just down the grass taxiway from the Sentimental Journey fly-in sits the Piper Aviation Museum. The former factory now sits as a place to learn about the history of the storied brand, and there's a new exhibit unveiled just in time for the fly-in. It tells the story of Piper's place in the World War II effort.
It's going to highlight Piper's contribution to the war effort during World War II. We have an L4 Grasshopper sitting on grass. We don't take off from pavement. We have grass here, artificial turf on the floor, and a World War II motorcycle sitting alongside.
You know, the majority of U.S. military pilots during World War II started their training in Piper aircraft, and the museum hopes to add to that exhibit in the near future. Well, speaking of honoring the past, Kansas's 2 senators, Jerry Moran and Roger Marshall, tell us that a statue of Amelia Earhart will be placed in the U.S. Capitol. Now, Earhart was a Kansas native, and as you may recall, each state gets 2 statues in the Capitol, so Amelia will be joining Dwight Eisenhower in the statue. And they say it honors the state's motto, ad astra per aspera. Well, I don't know how good my Latin is, but what that means is to the stars with difficulty. The dedication of the statue will be July 27th. Well, this is a far cry from Amelia's Lockheed Electra. The Gulfstream G800 had its first flight this week. That's one big business jet. Has longest range of any of Gulfstream's models, 8,000 nautical miles. They also say it's the fastest Gulfstream yet. Will carry up to 19 passengers. It can have 4 living areas or 3 living areas with a crew compartment. Just a mere $72 million. But if that's a little too rich for your blood, you can get a TBM 960 for a little more than $4.5 million. FAA certified the aircraft last week. The 960 replaces the 940, and we have a pilot report on the 960. The link is on the screen. And finally, if you're looking to fly somewhere truly off the grid, we have just the place for you. Now, the U.S. Forest Service operates a network of cabins throughout the vast Tongass National Forest in Alaska, and several of those cabins are accessible only by seaplane. The simple, affordable cabins offer an ideal way to experience the beauty of Alaska, and you can go fishing, hunting, hiking. You can read more about the cabins in the August issue of AOPA Pilot Magazine, or watch the video about them. The link, as we always say, is up there in the corner. Well, that's News Brief for this week. Please like, subscribe, comment, and have a safe and happy July 4th. Go out and celebrate your freedom to fly. And we hope to see you back here next week.